What the hell is up, my homies and chromies? We are headed to Paradise, also known as Cosmonarchy Castover, and we are going to be looking at Hamster versus JarrellStorm on this 4-spawn map by BiddyB. This is just before I actually went in and finally fixed the BiddyB tile. So, unless we go back in time at a later point, this particular doodad will not be misplaced anymore. And I updated the visuals in a couple of other spots since there's a lot of repeating tiles. But, you know, the monumental, of monumental importance and significance is that repeating tile is gone. We are on a 7-patch map, a 7 mineral spawn, mineral node map. And so you can tell that we are in the future. We are in the current eco and still figuring things out. Really, the only thing that hasn't yet been implemented about the new economy is the mineral depletion, reducing the mineral, like the harvest time, basically. So making it, well, I guess increasing the harvest time. So making it so that your workers are less efficient on the depleted minerals. And that actually includes making the third worker completely pointless. No point in adding it whatsoever. And the second worker becomes less efficient than less than 100% efficient. We talked a little bit recently about how the worker efficiencies changed, where previously the third worker was half as efficient as the first two. Well, now the third worker is only a quarter as efficient. And maybe that itself will also change later on to be only 12.5%, right? So half of half, basically. Well, I guess half of a quarter. But you get the idea. It's like further reducing the significance of that third worker. We're going to hold off on that for now and just see how things go. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update as to, the last mechanical feature that we're going to be adding to this patch before we presumably ship it up and, finish it up, zip up the job, so to speak, and cross our T's, dot our I's, figure out other balance implications, and then head on out. So yeah, just figured I would point that stuff out. We do have Hamster in the top left as the Celadon Zerg. Lovely to see Hamster as Zerg again. He seems to have his units a bit confused on the ramp right now. Oh no, I think I know what he's doing. He's hiding them there so that he can figure out where his opponent is. I didn't catch if he scouted his opponent, but there is the natural Hatcherosk on the way. Yeah, he has not confirmed where his opponent is. He's going to use those Zeths to find him. And, the first Zeth is going to see that it was a hatch first for JarrellStorm, who's our yellow Zerg in the bottom left. So I did get 100% color accuracy here. Just came a little bit later because I wanted to talk a little bit about the economy. And by the way, a further point is that I don't actually know if Jarrell's going to be able to cancel that. Oh, well, he couldn't even cancel that worker, that K-Grim. But it looks like he's actually just going to outright lose the hatch. Zeths did get a DPS buff in the changes, but they lost some movement speed. So they don't hit as hard as they used to or as fast as they used to off of a 6 pool. But if they can actually get connections, they're able to get some pretty good damage. It looks like Hamster must have right-clicked most of his units onto one guy, and that's why he was only attacking once. So it's going to be some Zeth fights, just like Starcraft 1 ZvZ. And oh no, Hamster's hit the burrow key. I actually think he was going to win that fight if he much more dominantly if he had not hit the burrow key, so that's a little bit of a fat finger moment. But there are some quasis out. Again, the lack of movement speed that the Zeths have is actually going to hurt their performance versus the quas. But if they can actually get onto the field of battle here and pick the quas like that, you can see how much faster the quas die than they used to. And so this is still going from kind of bad to worse on the micro side. A Kagrin turning into a Larvosk for extra larva production over here for Jarrell, whereas back at home for Hamster, he's already made a hatch inside his base. So committing to the aggro, but it looks like things have subsided for the time being. And that Larvosk will be coming online in about, 15 seconds or so. Hamster has a mild worker advantage, but looks like things have stabilized with enough Quasilisks being made, and now Jarrell's going to go ahead and proudly take his expansion faster than Hamster is, funnily enough. Now, Hamster does have the larva advantage, so he should be able to go up to a worker count advantage, and even further than he already has. You can see he's up by 6 workers. He is going to go ahead and make a Vornath as his expansion comes online, and his one of his Zethar cores is going to come down here and looks like just burrow in the choke. I would love to get in and confirm that the expansion is coming, because that will inform you of. I'm remembering a match between Art of Turtle and maybe it was Taco Cake way back in Acropolis #1, and Art of Turtle was in a position where he he built he got kind of BTFO'd by the early aggression, but then he, after getting knocked down off of his expansion and into a one base territory, similar to what Jarrell is, he just decided to build up a huge number of units and then move across the map. And, his opponent was kind of caught unawares because they didn't scout to see if he added his expansion. They just kind of assumed he did. Now, in this particular case, that assumption is all well and good. Jarrell is only now going to be able to confirm the location of Hamster, and he will have to suicide that Zeth, in fact. I mean, if he was really on the ball, he could have caught it, but obviously I don't necessarily expect that out of our players here. So he's going to confirm that there's nothing of the sort coming out, and the hatch is now up and running for both players in their naturals. So I will actually go ahead and camera hockey the natural expansions. It's always a nice time when I get to do that, just in time to see 4 Nathricors headed on out. Another pair has hatched in the meanwhile, and we have Nathricors number 7 and 8 also heading out. The Quasis are still mostly, well, no, never mind. Most of them are actually on the front line. This could be a bit of a difficult hold for Jarrell. He doesn't have any anti-air coming online. He has no idea that this is happening. Something that I think Zergs are going to have to start doing pretty soon is going for a faster Ovalef, instantaneously getting a couple of Quasis queued up. He doesn't even realize that he has 2 just standing right there. So he is going to end up losing both Larvosks, I think, but it looks like Hamster's giving a little bit of respect to the Quasis and pulling out the weakened Nathricor. Not a bad shout there, but he picks one Quasi and then goes back to the Larvosk. I'm not sure what that's about. He might end up losing most of the Nats, but it looks like no, he will end up falling away. So that is a lot of Vespene lost for Jarrell. He is going to go ahead and try to remorph it, and he canceled the attack where maybe he had a little bit of an advantage in terms of tempo, but admittedly Hamster was building static defense. Hamster was building a lot of Quasis, so it might have just been a no-win situation here. It's going to be a whopping total of 7 Nathricors flying on in and just seeing what they can find. I say 7 Nats versus 7 Quas. You might actually be able to win with that, but obviously there's way more down here. So, he's just poking in, seeing what he can see. He's going to want to see if he can wrap around. And look at this in the natural, as Zorka's Shroud started for JarrellStorm. He's been favoring Gorgakors, been consulting Zerg strategy with Hit 'em Up. And Jarrell is I would say, a rising Zerg star right now. So he has been beaten back by the early aggro, as Hamster is often wont to do. And he's now engaging into a bit of a concave for Hamster, but trying to see if he can get a little bit more done. He kept 7 Quas back at his home, so the Nathricors actually don't end up finding too much purchase elsewhere. They are going to loop back around with the rest of the force, but Jarrell has just been pounding the units out. And Hamster, with still up 7 workers, and of course getting that very important Vespene saturation at the natural, he is in a position where he can do a lot in this situation, especially putting his opponent further in the under the pump with the Larvosk snipes. He's actually going to head on back over there. If Jarrell's not too careful, he is going to end up losing them again, but instead, it looks like the Nats are going to get aggroed in, and they're going to pick 2 Quas. Oh, Hamster, you really got to watch out for that, because if those you go on an attack move, you're going to be in for some deep shite. Okay, he is going to pull off. Is that going to signal to Jarrell that he's got to restock his Larvosk defenses? There was a little bit of a scuffle at the choke, but the circuits were revealed, another one being set up here by Hamster. And now, look at this, the Nats are trying their best to stick to these Nathricors. They are doing it. They're getting a couple of picks here and there, but they do have to watch out because, oh, yeah, look at that, 2 more going. I think at 4 Naths, it's going to be a lot harder for them to pick a Larvosk. You got to watch out for that. JarrellStorm getting a Hydrath Den up and running as well, so he's going to go for a mix of Hydras and a couple of other units. In fact, did he even use his Shroud for anything? I guess not right now. Hamster, on the other hand, going to rush up to Tier 2 at 8 minutes. Okay, let's see what he can do. I don't really think Jarrell can afford to pop through here and actually do some damage. He's hemorrhaging a lot of units, thanks to Hamster's own Quas. The Nathricor is going to come in here and reveal that the Hydras are out. He still doesn't know about the Shroud, mind you. That's an important notice. A lot of Quasilisks here to protect the front. You can tell he's setting himself up for a Lyralisk switch, which can be very, very lethal, adding his own Kagran inside the natural. It does feel like Hamster's at the very least, you're looking at this from the perspective of Jarrell, Hamster's at the very least kind of contained, but all of the army moving back to the main base for Jarrell, that feels like a capitulation in a way. We've got a macro hatch setting up here. This is going to be a Larvosk. That's kind of what I expected. The IRL about 80% complete. And so in about 10 seconds, we are going to see that hatch. Meanwhile, Jarrell moving out with a big army yet again, but he can't necessarily punch through and actually get too much done. Look at this, the Nathricors actually picking off individual, anti-air units here and there, or mixed units, right, assault units. So a Hydra does end up going down. Not what we thought. Not what we thought. Okay, so the of course, the Calculator Lake is on the way for Hamster. He is going to be able to upgrade those Quasilisks, mutating them into the Lyrilisks as soon as he has the resources to do so. His Nats are going to come on in for a scout. Might get a little bit of damage, could pick some workers or something. Third base now on the way here for Jarrell, who is wisely setting up a couple of units in a bunch of different locations just to scout out where a potential third base is coming online. These 3 Nats can eventually cancel that hatch, but they're not going to be able to actually get that done. And Hamster, he should just scout out the main to confirm no tier 2 is on the way, because we know that Jarrell is actually going into Gorgorcore territory now. I did mention that he does like that. And not really any dedicated anti-air. I mean, like, we don't have any hatches. We don't have any Spraiths. We don't have a Hydrith Den, is what I meant to say, not hatch. And so, as a result, Hamster is kind of not able to fight back when it comes to the, like, a mass air sort of brigade. Admittedly, if you kept a couple of Naths, they do reduce the armor of units that they attack. So that does help versus the Gorgs specifically. If you're going, like, Gorg, Quasi, Lyrilusk, then, or if you're going Quasi-Lyrilusk into Gorg, then, you can use the Nathicores to reduce their armor a little bit. But also, Gorgs struggle versus air relative to their performance versus stacked ground. Their air attack is single target. But there are a lot of them, right? We are talking about something like 7. He can just roll in here and just mop the floor with the worker counts. When you're versus Zerg in the mid game, you do need to start thinking about reinforcing your mineral lines, scouting out your opponent and seeing what they have. The Gorgacores are going to be revealed. Hamster will see that, and he's got a bunch of Lyrilisks off to the right side. It looks like it's going to be enough for JarrellStorm to hold here. He had a couple of Zoryus out as well. He's bringing some Iziracores for the spread damage. The Lyrilisks trying to focus down the Gorgs, who got a little bit async from the rest of the army. A couple of retreating shots using their movement speed could have been good to pick off a few more of those expensive melee air units there for Jarrell, but it looks like Hamster will mostly just withdraw. Doesn't realize how low HP the Gorg is. Looks like he's going to turn and fight it now. If he can pick that Zoryus, that's going to be one less tanky unit that Jarrell has to hold his opponent at bay. And when the Zoryus hits an enemy target, it increases the movement speed of all the other allies nearby. That really allows Jarrell's army to catch his opponent. Now, here we go. The burrow is coming in, but look, the Ovaleth preemptively brought over. A brilliant move for Jarrell. He's going to force Hamster to rebuild those workers if he wants to retake the worker lead, which he's lost just based on that attack in general, but also because, of course, Jarrell has his third up already. So the momentum has swung over. Remember, as Zerg, you can just replenish the workers really easily, but it does come at the cost of worker production, right? We're talking about a world where your larva time is 14 seconds instead of 12. That is going to add up. It means you need a couple more larva production in order to get the same rate as before. So pushing the ground army back, now reposting that. Worried and concerned about the potential for the Gorgacores to come back. I don't like the placement of the Kagrit inside the resource line. I think you need to put it down here, because if the Gorgs attack that, they're going to be splashing the Droleths, right? So that's not really going to be helpful in the general gist of it. And so I'm not 100% sure what can be done. But the Gorgacores are going to get caught by the Lyrilisks. Now, I say caught, but, Lyrilisks do have a lot of damage density, and that means they are going to get clumped up. So if Jarrell can engage with some other units that distract the Lyrilisks and stop them from killing off the Gorgacores specifically, that's going to be a pretty big move there. Now, a couple of workers die over here. Kind of telegraphs that Jarrell was interested in taking this 9 o'clock position. Not going to be allowed by Hamster. He's still in this game. He does have tier 2. He can go for the Spear Tiths and other such advanced defenses if he wants to, but that is going to be a bit of a gas cost. A couple of Lyrilisks parked over here going to slow down the encroach of the Gorgacores, while the rest of them try to hold this spoke in the sort of mid-left of the map. However, they are being brought back down. It's a mono comp right now for Hamster. He doesn't really have anything else to his name. In fact, he didn't make another tech node. The only tech node that he actually ended up making was that Iral Iris into the Calculator Lake. So it does feel like he's going to be at a disadvantage. He's got the one Spraith. It's not going to be enough to repost all of these Gorgacores, and the Ovaleth is still here to detect all the burrows. You're gonna have to get those Droleths out of there, and the Lyrilisks, sure, they can move fast, but I don't know, man. It's looking like Jarrell is just kind of playing him for a fiddle. The workers move to the right. They get caught by the ground army. More dead Droleths. Okay, well, the Lyrilisks are still reigning supreme for now, but it does feel like Jarrell is on the path to victory. He does have more tech, I would say, variety, despite being at tier 1. It's really funny that that's the case, and look at that. He's going to go ahead and take himself tier 2. He did not choose to expand down here. The Nathacore could have maybe caught that unit as well, but I don't see a corpse there. I'm going to guess that there was no expansion attempt. Now over here, Hamster's third attempt at taking a third expansion, that's going to get stymied. We do have 12 o'clock open as well if he wants to maybe try to double expand, but he doesn't really have a lot of, resources, right? He hasn't even resaturated his gas yet. He's going to put down some more units, and look at that! Just as he mutates the Spraith into a Spear Tip, that's when the Gorgs come back in. The Lyrilisks should be able to finish the job here. There is no counterattack on the ground. He should hit the stop key on those Drolets so they split up and they don't take as much damage from the splash, but yeah, it looks like most of the units are going to end up falling. Only one Gorgocore left to confirm that third base Hatcherosk has been put down. Not that he was really any surprise, but you know what? He still killed something like 4 or 5 workers. Maybe just, I see one corpse here. So it looks like 4 workers have been killed. That last Gorgocore going to be brought down. Paid for itself, definitely. But is the ground army going to be big enough for Jarrell to repost just the monocomp of Lyrilisks? I'm not 100% sure about that. It does feel like he's kind of taking pretty good fights here. He can get the Zethrakors onto the field. And remember, when the Zoryus take damage, they spawn a Rokor, a Broodling, right? And that is going to be another recipient of the bounce attacks. Kind of increases the overall sort of surface area that the Hamster has to deal with his Lyrilisks. He still has nothing that he can use to hold the enemy at bay. This is tier 1 versus tier 2, but Jarrell is showing the power of mixing up your composition using all 3 tech nodes at tier 1. Hamster trying to do his best with pure Lyrilisks. Definitely were some openings for him to get some more damage into this game, but it doesn't feel like he can really crack this army. I say that, looks like most of the Zethrakors are gone. The split damage from the Iziracors might be enough for now, but it looks like, yeah, Jarrell is going to start to fall on back. He wasn't able to do too much else, but he did stop the third base from going down. So that kind of seals it for me. I mean, there's a lot of idle workers, sure, and Jarrell is starting to mutate his tech. But with him being at tier 2, still being up a base, neither player really successfully expanding past their initial borders. You can see here, 6 o'clock in the eyes for Jarrell, since 9 o'clock was denied or earlier. And Hamster is going to have to reattempt an expansion, knowing that he's been down this whole time with the third base up and running. He scouted it with his Nathrakor so long ago. He knows that he is down in terms of the expansion count. He needs to make his tech count, but he just hasn't really been able to get it across the line with pure Lyrilisks. And I don't think that he's going to be able to trade that well versus what Jarrell has, particularly since Jarrell is now heading into tier 2 himself. He's just going to charge over here using his superior economy, using his more varied tech, and he's going to hold Hamster back long enough for his own Lyrilisks to pop. And then, I mean, if you've got Lyrilisks and your opponent also has Lyrilisks, but also like 10 other different unit types, they're probably going to win. Just saying. They're probably going to take the dub. New eco in action, and Jarrell is going to go ahead and try to intercept, drive a wedge between some of these Lyrilisks. He's catching so many of them on the back end. And when they regress, they turn into the Quasi, but it's stunned after that and slower than the Lyrisk, of course. Now, Jarrell is going to see if he can charge up this Spoke. He knows that the situation for Hamster is very dire. Hamster's got a lot of Vespene he wasn't able to leverage in this game. I don't know if he's going to be given the opportunity because this attack seems like it should be enough to clean things up, and Hamster will cede ground with Jarrell taking it. After such a, I would say, a very lengthy amount of back and forth in the early game that saw Jarrell be disfavored, the Nathrakor snipe's really good for Hamster. It just felt like he was too dead set on the Lyrisk. He wanted to summon Krankendau back from the depths and get him back into the game because he said, you know, I know you like Lyrilisks. What you forgot is that Krankendau loves Lychisilisk. So if you had combined those two units, they start with L, coincidentally perhaps, then you would have brought in, you would have combined L and L to make a W. You know what I'm saying? So just saying, that's an option. Check it out. And JarrellStorm definitely enduring and finding some good ways to come back from a deficit. So you know what? He wasn't able to get the dub versus hit him up. Few people are, but he found a different guy named H, starting with H, and he managed to bop him as well. So good stuff there. And Jarrell, we'll be seeing more of you, I'm sure. Hamster, I hope you also get to be shown off a little bit. We'll be back for more castovers very soon. GG's.